Hi, this is Professor Favors with American Literature. So today's lesson is on Walt Whitman's Song of Myself, and we are only going to look at stanzas 1 to 20. So make sure to have your document out. You can access it online. The Song of Myself, if you type it in as a research target, you should find a PDF. For my class, however, you do have access to a link. So this is American Literature, Walt Whitman's Song of Myself, stanzas 1 to 20. So this lesson is subject to fair use because I am including the 20 stanzas within this presentation, but it is for teaching purposes. So um, there are also pics, two pics of Walt Whitman as well. So this is subject to fair use. All right, so let's look at Walt Whitman. His date ranges 1819 to 1892. And so here's a picture of him. And I'm just going to read this slide and the next slide. The second of 9 children and born in 1819 to a Long Island farmer and carpenter, Walt Whitman is both the journeyman poet of Americanness and its champion. A journalist and newspaper editor throughout his life, Whitman worked as a law clerk, a school teacher, a printer, a civil servant, and a hospital aide, but he was always writing. From his teenage years until his death, his byline was on constant view. Contemporary reports suggest that Whitman was an industrious worker, but that he was often accused of idleness because his habit of long midday walks contrasted sharply with 19th century attitudes toward work. In Song of Myself, Whitman addressed these critics directly by writing, I loaf and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. So the purpose of us only looking at 1 through 20, even though 21 through 52 might have the answer that we need. The only reason why we want to look at only 1 through 20 for Song of Myself is this idea here where Whitman is addressing his critics. He is being accused of idleness. He's being accused of idleness. Song of Myself is him addressing the critics. They're saying in a time of change, in a time of industry, in a time of work is important to us. 19th century attitudes towards work. He is being idle. So then the 52 stanza Song of Myself is his response to the critics. And that's why we're only going to look at 1 through 20 because 1 through 20 really gives us what we need. Okay. So when you are reading the 20 stanzas, Song of Myself, understand that everything that he is saying, line by line, stanza by stanza, is in a response to the critics who say he's idle within the context of 19th century attitudes toward work. All right, so for Whitman, too much industry dulled the ability to celebrate the ordinary. In the preface to the first edition of Leaves of Grass in 1855, Whitman expounds on his love for the common. Other states indicate themselves in their deputies, but the genius of the United States is not best or most in its executives or legislators, nor in its ambassadors or authors or colleges or churches or parlors, nor even in its newspapers or inventors, but always most in the common people. Whitman's love for the common people that he encountered and observed in the urban centers of the North is expressed in all his poetry. If his British contemporary Alfred Lord Tennyson is the national poet of mourning, then Whitman is the national poet of celebration. So, what you see here with Whitman, too much industry, too much industry dulled the ability to celebrate the ordinary. Every day there is a ordinary experience. And what he's suggesting here that all of these people who are about industry, and call it genius, right? So these are the folks who are business executives. These are the folks who are state, federal legislators. These are some of the people who are ambassadors, authors, colleges, churches, parlors, even newspapers or inventors. These are the people who are so busy with industry, and there's nothing wrong with industry in a sense that you still need to put your hands to work. But he was saying that people spent too much time in industry to the point that they missed the commonness of people, everyday ordinary living. And so again, Song of Myself is a response to the critics that you are spending too much time in industry. You're not celebrating the ordinary. You're calling yourself genius because of all these different categories, right? It's like a person listing all of their accomplishments on their resume. You do this, you do this, you do this, but there's some aspect of your life that you are missing out on. And that's what he wants to call attention to. All right, so let's look at some historical implications. Remember from the introductory PowerPoint lesson to the course um, on time periods, that every time you see something in terms of a time period 1819 to 1892, his his birth and death dates, and that's the 19th century. You want to look at what was going on during that time. Now, there's a lot more that's going on. I just only put here the most necessary, but let's look at it. So, 1819, we have the Panic of 1819, which is a financial crisis. Somewhere between here, we also had another financial crisis, somewhere like 1837. Thomas Jefferson founds the University of Virginia. So then we have different states becoming states, or different territories becoming states. So Maine and Missouri becoming a state. Florida becomes a U.S. territory. We also have Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, the presidents, dying on the same day, and then Andrew Jackson becoming president. We have Nat Turner's revolt, also slavery debates. We have Oberlin College beginning enrolling female students. This is a change in the dynamic of all men being able to go to college, right? And many of the institutions having to create uh, separate institutions for women, separate institutions for Black Americans. And so you're going to see this again in your final paper for this course on single sex colleges. And the title of that is Are Single Sex Colleges Obsolete? And so then 1845, we have Florida and Texas becoming states. Then we have the Mexican American War. What is interesting here is 1857 is kind of like a current issue that's going on today. But this was Dred Scott v. Sanford, and he sued based on the idea that he was free from slavery. And so slaves and blacks, um, the conclusion of the suit, the judge's decision, slaves and blacks descended from slaves were not American citizens and cannot sue. So then later we ended up having Emancipation Proclamation, which freed the slaves, Reconstruction era, assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. Then the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment granted citizenship and equal protection under the law, meaning that we're not necessarily equal. It's a citizenship amendment, but it basically means that it's equal application of the law. So if men can go to college, women can go to college. If white people can go to college, black people can go to college. So it's equal application of the law. So now this is the industry aspect of um, Whitman's critique. 1865 to 1913, these were two major industrial revolutions. Then there was a global transition towards manufacturing, technological improvements, rapid economic growth in these areas here. So during the 19th century, where there's a heavy attitude towards work and industry, within this context here of the 19th century, we have critics who are criticizing Walt Whitman that he's not industrious enough. And so keep this in mind as we go through all the different slides. So we're looking at the immediate text. Whenever you want to look at a literary work, you look at the immediate text. You don't go and find um, secondary source material to try to understand the text itself. You want to take some time to learn how to look at the text yourself, and that's what we're going to do. All right, so stanza two, I believe, is about the purification. And so we're not going to go into that. And one of the words, distillation, when I looked it up, was about purification. So now let's look at that. All right, so let's look at stanza number two, and it's in two slides. So here's the first slide. Houses and rooms are full of perfumes. The shelves are crowded with perfumes. I breathe the fragrance myself and know it and like it. The distillation would intoxicate me also, but I shall not let it. The atmosphere is not a perfume. It has no taste of the distillation. It is odorless. It is for my mouth forever. I am in love with it. I will go to the bank, by the wood, and become undisguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. The smoke of my own breath echoes, ripples, buzzed whispers, love root, silk thread, crotch, and vine. My respiration and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs, the sniff of green leaves and dry leaves, and of the shore and dark colored sea rocks, and of hay in the barn, the sound of the belched words of my voice, loosed to the eddies of the wind, a few light kisses, a few embraces, a reaching around of arms, the play of shine and shade on the trees as the supple boughs wag, the delight alone or in the rush of the streets or along the fields and hillsides, the feeling of health, the full noon trill, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. So let's take the first two lines for a minute here. When you think about houses and rooms are full of perfumes, the shelves are crowded with perfumes. Think about a woman. A woman, just in particular, and this could still apply to a man, but a woman will have different types of perfumes in her on her counter, in her medicine cabinet, in some sort of little bag of other things that she might have with makeup. And when I think about perfumes, the house and rooms are full of perfumes. The shelves are crowded with perfumes. This could be literal or figurative. So literal, it would be the actual perfumes. So a woman may have a perfume that she wears around the house just to splash on. A woman might have a perfume that she splashes on to go to the grocery store, something just to put on, something quick. It's usually cheap. A woman might have a perfume that she uses to go out on a date or to go to clubs or something like that. And then when she goes to bed at night, she may not necessarily put on perfume, but the lotion that she puts on rubs on, might have some perfumey quality to it. So a house and rooms are full of perfumes. The shelves are crowded with perfumes. Is a literal can be literally assessed. But we can also look at the house and rooms are full of perfumes. The shelves are crowded with perfumes as figurative in terms of the criticisms that Walt Whitman receives because of his love for the ordinary, the extraordinary. I mean, the ordinary and the common, and um, that he cares more about taking time to experience and feel everything than to be industrious with his work. So when you think about shelves, a bookshelf, okay, and you think about a person who has a bookshelf in their office, in their home office, a lot of times you can tell what the argument is of that person and how they think based on the types of books that they have bought and put on the shelf. It's not the same book that's on the shelf, it's different books. Now let's look at genre. If the person loves a lot of novels, fantasy fiction, nonfiction, or something like that, and most of their library is filled or shelved with fantasy novels. Okay, that's their argument for life, right? And each of those fantasy novels has different types of arguments. There's a fantasy novel that focuses on like vampires or something, and then there's a fantasy novel that focuses on romance or something like that, right? But there are different arguments under one genre of novel. So that's a shelf that's filled with perfumes. The room is full with perfumes, with different books, and the shelf itself fills. The perfumes in this case, then, when we look at it figuratively, we're thinking about the criticisms. What each of these people, what each of these literary writers, authors, the period except the 19th century say about Walt Whitman. So then he says, I breathe the fragrance myself, know it, and like it. I don't necessarily think, if you look at know means awareness of some sort of consciousness, right? So he's breathing these perfumes or criticisms. He knows what they are, he's conscious of what they are. Liking it doesn't always necessarily mean that he likes it, like we would like a particular perfume. What like means in this particular uh, part is having the same characteristics or qualities. That part of him is them as well, meaning that he likely has criticized another literary writer, or his work has criticized another literary writer. So his like it could mean criticism of all the other different perfumes. Perfumes could be figurative again for literary writings as well. The distillation would intoxicate me. So distillation here is purification. That's what the definition is. It would intoxicate me also, but I shall not let it. So even though I'm prone to be critical, I'm prone to have a perfume that could be full of a house and room full of perfumes, or a shelf that's filled with perfumes, whether that's literal or figuratively. And even though I'm just as much as exposed to the fragrance, the different types of arguments, and I am aware and like it, I may have the same characteristics, but the distillation, the purification of it, purification meaning to sort of clean it out. The distillation means the action of purifying a liquid by a process of heating and cooling. The purification of it would intoxicate me, but I'm not going to let it completely intoxicate me. The atmosphere is not a perfume. Pay attention to this, because the atmosphere here is the subject of the sentence, but is now there is a pronoun it. The atmosphere is not a prayer. It has no taste of the distillation. It is odorless. It is for my mouth forever, and I am in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. Now that's the one that I want you to pay attention to. That I'm mad that it is in contact with me. The atmosphere here is what we understand atmosphere to be, I think, in astronomy, um, envelopment of gases, right? But atmosphere has a different meaning also as a pervading tone or mood. Atmosphere is also means a pervading tone or mood, right? So the pervasive tone of perfumes, fragrances, distillation, being intoxicated by it, the atmosphere of it, I don't want it to be in contact with me. I'm actually mad. I'm mad that I know about it. And I'm mad that there may be some characteristics of it that I agree with. And that I'm mad that it could intoxicate me, and the purification of it could intoxicate me. And I don't want to let it. And I'm mad that I have to be in contact with it. It's kind of like a person, you're riding the bus, and each person has their right, in terms of free will, how they are going to conduct themselves, right? How they're going to conduct himself or herself. But then a person takes out a cigarette and smokes, and you are both in the atmosphere, or you're both um, in the elements outside, right? But you are mad that you have to be in contact with it, meaning that you don't want to be in contact with the smoke that's coming from the cigarette. You don't, you're not critical of the person smoking. You don't have a problem with them making that as a life choice for them, right? But and part of it could intoxicate you to think about, maybe I should smoke, right? Um, and the air is not, is, there's some distillation of it, right? There's some purification, because at times when the person is it smokes out, it smokes away from you. The smoke going is going away from you. But the fact that you still have to be in contact with, you both have to ride the bus, and you're standing at the bus stop, and it's not like you can walk down the street to another bus stop, because it may be a long walk down the street, and then you might actually miss the bus. You're mad that you have to be in contact with it. Now, a person who smokes would not be mad. They would be intoxicated. They would like the perfumey aspect of it, the fragrance, the distillation, the atmosphere. Two people smoking at the bus stop, they would not be mad at each other for being in contact with each other. But a person who is not one thing and a person who is one thing, one of those people is mad that the other person is there, or the effects of the other person is there. So I'm mad for it to be in contact with the atmosphere. Okay. So then the smoke of my own breath echoes, ripples, buzzed, whispers, love root, silk thread, crotch, and vine. And then now he gets into my respiration and inspiration. Respiration means breathing, and then inspiration means the process of being mentally stimulated to do something. So I'm not mentally stimulated really to care about the perfumes, the fragrance, the distillation, the intoxication, the atmosphere, and being mad. I'm not really inspired to do something about that. My breathing and my process of being mentally stimulated to do something, I care about it here. So I care about the sniff of green leaves and dry leaves, the shore and of the shore and dark colored sea rocks and hay in the bourne, the sound of the belched words of my voice loose to the eddies of the wind, a few light kisses, few embraces reaching around of arms, the play of shine and shade on the trees as the supple boughs wag, the delight alone or in the rush of the streets or along the fields and hillsides, the feeling of health, the full known trill, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. I'm more inspired. That's the fragrance that I like. That's the atmosphere that I like. That's the distillation that I like. I am breathing and inspired, respiration and inspiration by these X amount of things here. One, two, three, four, five, six. And then in each of the six lines, you have different aspects of Whitman painting a picture of what he actually cares about. Remember, inspiration being the process of being mentally stimulated to do something. So I'm not mentally stimulated to care too much about the different perfumes, the house and room full of perfumes, or the shelves crowded with perfumes. I don't care too much about being inspired to do something about that. meaning that even though it can intoxicate me, and even though there's some similar characteristics, and I'm aware I should not let it, and I'm mad that I have to be in contact with me. I don't want to be in contact with criticisms, because the criticisms are not that necessarily useful, because you are accusing me of being idle when I have every right to be idle. And so I like the inspiration that I get from rising from bed and meeting the sun. All right, here's the rest of stanza two. So, have you reckoned 1,000 acres much? Have you reckoned the earth much? Have you practiced so long to learn to read? Have you felt so proud to get at the meaning of poems? Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and sun. There are millions of suns left. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the specters and books. You should not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You should listen to all sides and filter them from yourself. So here, this is a form of rhetorical questioning, right? So have you reckoned 1,000 acres much? Have you reckoned the earth much? Have you practiced so long to run? Meaning that, have you taken the time to travel? Have you taken the time to perceive the purpose of the earth, why you are on the earth? Have you taken the time to practice so long to learn to read? Meaning that in our modern day thinking, we don't really read as much as we used to read. We read to try to get the gist of the information, but we don't read it for a true understanding. And learning to read for understanding requires practice. Have you felt so proud to get at the meaning of the poem? So here it is. There's a lot of assuming that you might do. There's a lot of purification that you might do, but what is the actual meaning of the poem? That's why you want to look at the immediate text. So now he's giving you an urge. Stop. Let me see if I can use red. Stop. Right here, stop. Stop this day and night with me, and ye shall possess the origin of all poems. Stop, meaning slow down. I know we are in an era of industrial revolution and changes and technological improvements, but you still need to understand while you are here on this earth what your purpose is. So you shall possess the good of the earth and sun. There are millions of suns. That you shall no longer take things at second, third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the specters and books. Meaning that um, if you take the time yourself to get to learn how to practice so long to read, right? Learn how to practice so long to read. You will learn the meaning of poems, and you will learn the origin of poems, meaning history. So then you won't have to rely on second or third hand information about it. Then you shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. Meaning that second or third, or don't just rely on second or third. Don't even rely on me. Listen to all sides and filter them from yourself. Listen to all sides and filter them. So that means um, you are so busy trying to do all of this industry, but you're not taking time to develop. And life, no matter what season or period we're in, still requires some individual and professional development. So that's stanza two. All right, so here's some resources, research archives, and educational information. So Walt Whitman Birthplace Association website, then research archives list of links you can find on that website. Some are good links and some are not. So I added a Walt Whitman archive link here, and then of course the source pit. All right. Thank you very much for listening.